Welcome to the Staadpro training course to learn how to generate seismic loads. Over the next series of videos, you will learn how to generate seismic loads in Staadpro. This includes creating the seismic load definition and defining the seismic load items. In this video, we will complete the process of applying our seismic loads to our sample structure by using seismic load items. Our process that we will be doing is we will be applying our seismic loads in the positive and negative global axis directions. We will learn how to incorporate orthogonal effects into your structure if required by your building code. And we will also learn how to complete this process by specifying some analysis and change commands and also the setNL command. The first step in this process is to incorporate your seismic load items into your basic seismic load cases. To do this, we will use our seismic definition, incorporate it into our load case by specifying the direction, the factor, and also the accidental torsional moment properties. In our sample model, we have already generated 8 seismic load cases, and these will represent seismic acting on the structure in each of the global axis directions with positive and negative accidental eccentricities. To begin applying our seismic load items, we will go to the General tab in the Page Control area and the Load and Definition sub-tab. I will expand the definitions group and we will see that our seismic definition has already been created. And I will also expand our load case details section. And we will be focusing on the 1000 series load cases, which are meant to represent the seismic loads in the positive and negative global X and Z axis directions with positive and negative eccentricity effects. Now in Staadpro, it is a program requirement that the seismic loads must be positioned before any other load case in the load and definition dialog. And we can see here I have all of my seismic load cases at the top of the list, and then towards the bottom is where I have my dead, live, and wind load. Now if a model already contains the other load cases, then seismic loads can be created in the STAAD editor to ensure that they are located at the top of the list. To create our first seismic load item, I will go over to the load case details section and highlight my 1001 seismic load case. This load case will represent seismic in the positive X direction with the positive effects of accidental eccentricity. Once I highlight this load case, I will go ahead and click Add. And since I've already created my seismic definition in my previous video, I am ready to populate this with my seismic load item. In the Add New Load Items dialog, I will select the Seismic Loads option. And here I have a variety of options available. This load case represents seismic load in my X direction, and I'm going to keep the factor set to +1, which indicates in the positive direction. I'm also going to select my multiplying factor for accidental torsional moment checkbox, and for the accidental torsion to be considered, it is necessary that the seismic load definition also includes that checkbox for accidental torsional moment. To consider a 5% accidental eccentricity, I'm going to enter my factor of 1.0, which will automatically represent 5% eccentricity. Once I've completed my seismic load item, I'm going to click Add, followed by Close. And here I can see that my first seismic load case is complete. I would then proceed down the list of my 1000 series loads until all of my seismic load cases were populated. Let's demonstrate this process for seismic loads in our X direction. I'm going to highlight my next seismic load case and again click Add. And I'm going to select the seismic load item. Now this load case is seismic in the positive X direction, but this time I'm going to consider a negative 5% eccentricity. So I'm going to set my factor equal to -1. Again, click Add, followed by Close, and now my second seismic load case is complete. I will now do my seismic load cases in my negative x direction. Once you have completed populating all of your seismic load in your x direction load cases, the z direction would be done the same exact method. In certain circumstances, you may be required to incorporate the orthogonal seismic load effects as necessary to meet the intent of reference standards such as the ASCE 7. Now in our sample Staadpro model, we've already created seismic load items to represent seismic in the positive and negative global horizontal axis direction, also considering the positive and negative effects of eccentricity. Now we can use these basic primary load cases to incorporate into what we would call a seismic permutation load case to combine the loads, which would be maybe 100% of the load in one direction with 30% of the load in another direction. In Staadpro, we can use a repeat load item to combine these loads together into another load case. The significance of the repeat load item is that the loads will be combined before the model is analyzed, so you get the true effect of the loads acting simultaneously. In our sample model, we've already created several seismic load cases in the 2000 series load cases area to represent these orthogonal effects that we're going to be applying to the model. Again, I can use my basic primary seismic load cases as my building blocks to create these orthogonal effects. Let's go ahead and see how we would do our first one. We'll click on our 2001 seismic load case and click on the Add button. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be defining a repeat load. So we'll select our repeat load item, and we can see that all of our available load cases are shown here. For this one, we will be adding our seismic load in our x direction with positive eccentricity. I can hold down my control key and also select one of my z load cases, and then I'll click the single right arrow button. Now for this particular load case, I'm going to take 100% of the load in the x direction, so I will set the factor for load case 1001 equal to 1, but I'm going to be only taking 30% of the load in the other direction, so I will set that factor to 0.3. Once entering the information, I can go ahead and click Add, followed by Close, and I can see that I've now populated my first orthogonal load effect. I would then continue this process for the rest of them, and let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the first 4. What I would do then is highlight my next seismic load case and click the Add button, and then I'm going to repeat this process. I'm going to take my 1001 series load case, but instead of the 1005, let me take the next one in the z direction. And I'm going to do this for each of the loads in the z direction. I'm going to click on my single right arrow and set the factor appropriately for that z seismic load case. I would then repeat this process for the rest of the seismic load cases in this 2000 series that are meant to represent orthogonal loading effects. We have one more critical step to complete our process for generating our seismic loads for our sample model. We should add a few commands into the Staadpro input file, which of course we can do through the graphical user interface. We should add a perform analysis command after each of the basic primary seismic load case. This will instruct Staadpro to analyze the structure for each of the seismic load cases individually. After the perform analysis command, we should add the change command as well, and this will instruct Staadpro to reset the stiffness matrix to its original form after each of the seismic load cases is analyzed. Finally, we will also specify the set NL command, and this will be required in our model. This specifies the maximum number of primary load cases for processing, and it is used in a multiple analysis run if you add more primary load cases after one analysis has been performed. Of course, we'll be adding several perform analysis commands, and we do have load cases after them, and that's why we'll be required to have the set NL command. We will now return to our Staadpro model and add the analysis and change commands after each of the 1000 series seismic load cases. To do this, we will go over to the Analysis Print tab in the Page Control area, and we will go ahead and click Close on the Analysis Print Commands dialog. What we want to do is we want to set our cursor in the correct location in the Analysis dialog. And what we're going to do is we're going to select our second seismic load case. We're going to use an after current command to insert some perform analysis and change commands before this load case. To do that, we've set our cursor location and click on the Define Commands button. Now we'll select the after current checkbox to insert our analysis command. We will select our print option of no print, and then we will click the Add button. We will then go up to the Change tab. Again, our after current checkbox is selected, and again we'll click Add. After we've completed that, let's go ahead and click Close and check out our analysis dialog to see our commands we just added. Here we can see that we've now inserted a perform analysis and change command after the first basic seismic load case. Let's now repeat this process 7 more times to add the perform analysis and change commands after the other seismic load cases. Now we can see in the analysis dialog all of the analysis and change commands that will be required for our IBC seismic load cases have been incorporated into our model. Our last step is to incorporate the setNL command into our model, and this is required to allow Staadpro to set aside additional member space information that's added later. Of course, for our particular model, it's because we performed an analysis and a change command, and we've introduced other load cases after these commands. To set the NL command, go to Commands in your main menu bar, select Miscellaneous, and then we'll select Set NL. For this model, we'll select the maximum number of loads to 50, and then go ahead and click OK. Now we will save our model, and all of the information necessary for this particular model to generate our seismic loads is complete.